50 years ago, I was an average guy, maybe a little above average because I was making more money than most people. But other than that, I was a very local person in the USA, and I had zero idea about going international or about passports. And the most important thing that I didn't know was that there was such a thing as a tax haven. It never occurred to me because, like everyone else, I'd heard, oh, the only sure things in life are death and taxes. So it never occurred to me that there were countries in the world where you could go and there were no taxes. Well, one day in my junk mail, I found a piece of advertising from a guy who died. He's not around anymore, named Harry Schultz. And he said, read this. I have a message about my three-flag theory. And the three-flag theory was like something kind of amazing to me. Of course, you know, you reject any new idea, but the first idea was, hey, if you have any passport in the whole world except the USA, you are doing well. Now, what the hell is that idea? I was born in the USA. I had a USA passport, and I didn't think there was any other possibility. But he says, hey, the USA passport is the only one in the world where even if you leave the USA, you still are liable for taxes and a jail sentence if you don't pay it. And also, I did take an occasional trip down to Mexico. And on one of those trips, I was at a stoplight, and the Mexican police took my license plate off my car and said, you were stopped illegally at a stoplight. Yeah, well, you're supposed to stop when the light is red. But that didn't matter to the Mexican cop. They said, you want your license plate back? Well, you can't drive around very well without a license plate. So I said, well, yeah, what does it take? He said, well, the fine for what you did is $100 US. Well, I'd already heard you can bargain with the Mexican police, and so I said, well, I don't have 100, but I have a couple of cartons of cigarettes I was going to bring home. How about that? And he said, you really don't have 100? You don't have any money? I said, well, here, let me look. $5. Okay, $5 and the cigarettes, that's it, and I'm out of money. Okay, well, we can't get any more out of you. We'll take the $5 and the 2 cartons of cigarettes. Now I go home and I read in the paper that there's a law in the States that if you bribe a foreign official or a foreign cop, you can get 25 years in jail. Well, that was quite a surprise to me because, you know, how can I get my license plate back in Mexico without bribing the cop? And if I didn't bribe him, you can be sure I'd be in jail. I'd go to court. The judge would find me guilty of all kinds of good stuff, and I'd be finished. And yet here, I'm back in the States, and I'm hoping nobody will ever find out that I bribed a Mexican cop. Well, anyway, the message in that video resonated with me that a USA passport is not so good, because in any other country, if you bribe a cop to get out of a situation like I was in, of course your own country won't punish you. Well, getting back to our story, so the first thing he said was the 3 flags you should consider. The first flag is getting a new passport. And he talked about how you get a new passport. Well, it never occurred to me that you even should have a second passport, but he says, okay, if your ancestors, that is even your grandpa or grandma, is Polish or Italian or British or Irish, you can get a passport from that country if you apply and give them all the documents they need. Okay. So I began to think had a German mother. Maybe I could get a passport that way. So I applied, and they said, no, in Germany, your ancestry has to come through your father. German mothers don't count. And then back in last year, 2023, Germany finally changed the law and said, okay, if your German ancestry comes through a female line, we'll consider giving you a passport. So I applied. We'll see what happens. But who cares now that I'm 86? How much longer do I have on Earth, huh? 4 years maybe, if I'm lucky? Okay. So anyway, the first flag that I was told to consider was the passport. Now, there's 6 flags now that we've come up with, and I suppose this can be a series where I talk in detail about each flag. But let me, for now, tell you, if you want to have the so-called PT lifestyle, which is a very good lifestyle, you're prosperous, you're very free, and no government knows your existence. So what are those 6 flags? Let's go through them one by one. Citizenship and passport. Residence havens. Now, for instance, if you're from any country but the U.S. and you get a permit to live in a place like the Bahamas or Andorra or Liechtenstein or Monaco, and there's others, then you don't have to pay any taxes at all. Okay, so that will pass that, but that is number 2. You should have to have a residence. Number 3 is a playgrounds. Now, what's a playground? Well, in many countries, if you spend a lot of money and you seem rich, you're going to be robbed, or the local government will figure out some way to squeeze money out of you. And, well, let's just leave that for now. I'll talk more about playgrounds, because we're just going to cover the 6 flags very briefly. Then you're going to have a business base. Well, that means if you're making money in any field at all, you should have your headquarters in a place that doesn't tax you. Now, for instance, if you're very rich and you go to the government of Israel and you say, look, I'd like to move my business headquarters here, they'll say, okay, we'll give you 50 years, long time, of tax freedom. So you won't have to pay taxes there. And there are other countries that give you a long-term tax freedom if you're already rich and you just move there. So that's business base. Then asset management, and where you keep your secret stash. Well, that used to be Switzerland, though. Switzerland was the place much better than anywhere else, where for a nice fee of about 1 or 2% of your assets every year, they would manage your money, and it would be completely secret and anonymous. And it was a good business base, but now we got to change that because Switzerland has fallen. Well, it's taken the U.S. Suggestion that anybody who has a Swiss account has to report it to the USA. And finally, and maybe the most important, is the newest flag, the electronic haven in cyberspace. In other words, if you can earn your money, like I'm trying to do with this YouTube video, if you can earn your money through online connections and sales, well, then you have a artificial headquarters in Tuvalu or, some strange place. But those are the 6 flags, and we're going to, in future videos, tell you how to get each one, how to use them, and how to have a happy PT life, which is sometimes called perpetual traveler or digital nomad. And that's it for today.